you geeks, I must admit that I've been very suspect of the Stormlight theory that honor will be reunited in Book 5. I've always thought of the unify honor theory as a pretty red herring, like communism.
Communism was just a red herring.
Sando does like to recycle tropes and reuse them in new and innovative ways, with an emphasis here on new and innovative. And I just thought that unifying honor seemed too close to a certain other book that shall remain nameless due to spoilers. However, my thoughts have been evolving on this topic with my own rereads and your wonderful comments that have helped reframe my perspective. Please keep them coming. Sando is certainly leading to something with honor in Book 5, and it could be some form of reunification, or perhaps something else. My theory goes thusly. Full spoiler warning for all Cosmere released full books ahead. You have been warned. First, we're going to look at where honor seems to be living currently. And then we will look at the abodes in which he seems to have abandoned and why. Then finally, we are going to look at how honor may be revitalized again in Wind and Truth. The hearts of men. And by that, I mean the fantasy race of humans. But the hearts of humans just ain't as poetic. If anyone should be offended by this turn of phrase, it is singer kind, which we will get to, and not females, since it is from female perspective that Sanderson first floats this idea by the reader all the way back in The Way of Kings, from early, naive, stupid, annoying Shallan. Well, I'm not very well trained in that area myself, but I do think that you ignored or at least minimized one vital part of the discussion. Which is, Yasna said. Shallan tapped her breast. Our heart's brightness, I believe, because I feel something, a closeness to the Almighty, a peace that comes when I live my faith. The mind is capable of projecting expected emotional responses. Sanderson is actually pretty brilliant here for having Shallan float this idea first, since I, like Yasna, rejected it as merely cognitive bias. And I'm not an atheist. Rather, because of my faith formation, I was able to write this off as being skewed emotional perspective that could not prove the existence of a chair. But sometimes wisdom comes from the mouths of seemingly stupid, naive, annoying people, such as Shallan. Sanderson doubles down on this in the words of someone wiser in Words of Radiance with wit. You'll find God in the same place you're going to find salvation from this mess, Wit said, inside the hearts of men. Curiously, Yasna said, I believe I can actually agree with you on that, though I suspect for different reasons than you imply. Wit's statement is an observable matter of fact in a way that both skeptic Yasna and Platonist me can get behind. And so, I can see this as Brandon moving up the ladder of the rule of threes.
3 has a magic number.
First as a mere whisper in Shallan's insight, then as a mere statement in Wit's, then escalating up to a shout in Rhythm of War. Notum lowered his head, then said in a loud voice, Honor is not dead so long as he lives in the hearts of men. Adolin had never heard the statement before, but it seemed to trigger the honor-sprung crowd, who began standing up and shouting in outrage, or even in support. Then to really hammer it home, it comes up again in Rhythm of War when Wit and Yasna renew their conversation about the fate of the world and the terms of the contract for the duel between Team Honor and Team Odium. Because Race knows, same as I'm telling you, that the contest won't be about who can stab the hardest with their spear. What will it be about then? Same thing it's always been about, Yasna. The hearts of men and women. Do you trust the hearts of those who fight on your side? Yasna's silence in response to this question is deafening. After all, it's an opening line of the entire Stormlight archive that the love of men is a frigid thing. Honor cannot live if the hearts of men are frozen to him.
Beware the frozen heart.
But when it comes to reviving Honor, why are men seemingly the only viable option? Heart of stone.
My heart of stone.
The singers, listeners, and many other intelligent life forms of Roshar came equipped with gem hearts to better bond Spren and facilitate them living in the harsh Rosharan climate. So it makes sense that the ancient singers saw this as their birthright, and when the humans started to bond Spren without this feature, they got a little, peeved. Humans don't have gem hearts. How could they bond Spren? It was unnatural. Yet somehow their bond was more powerful than ours. I've always said the same thing and believe it even more strongly now. We must exterminate them. It was the pride of the ancient singers to turn them into fuse, spiteful that they, in their natural born state, freely given by, if not the almighty, then Adonalcium, could be shared with these lesser beings of humans. This reminds me quite pleasantly of sad boy Lucifer's brooding in Paradise Lost when he discovers the same thing. But heaven's free love dealt equally to all? Be then his love accursed, since love or hate to me alike, it deals eternal woe. Sanderson has a great talent for taking classical epic metaphor and making it literal.
You used a metaphor on Timon? He takes things literally.
Of course, Sanderson is capable of understanding and using actual metaphors, but I like it when he takes the old, ancient, mythic, and even biblical metaphors and makes them literal. And I think one such metaphor has been staring us in the face since at least part 2 of The Way of Kings. A metaphor of sorts coined by the prophet Ezekiel. I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. I will take the heart of stone out of your flesh and give you a heart of flesh. For starters, Sanderson gives Radiance a new spirit by giving them friendly Spren. Then, from the perspective of, the disgruntled fuse, the Almighty replaced his place in their gem hearts and gave his love to those with fleshy hearts in humans. After all, gems are nothing but
very small rocks.
But we cannot discount the fact that Radiant singers once existed, and Radiant listeners have risen anew. With how bad Venli is at living up to her order's Radiant ideals, it's really amazing that Timbre doesn't die in Rhythm of War, which I think is attributable to Venli's gem heart. It kept Timbre safe and sentient in a way that a human mental-emotional bond could not. By their nature that is more tenuous, humans had to be more intellectually and passionately aligned to the ideals of their Spren in order for a Spren to be attracted to them. The human's greater power came because of greater fragility.
It may sound easy, but nothing could be harder. It will test your head and your mind and your brain, too.
The oaths were created by humans and Spren to better align their wills and passions towards a higher ideal. It's all very Platonic Phaedrus-y, as well as Old Testament-y, as seen in the book of the prophet Jeremiah, who reports that his God says, I will put my law in their minds and write it on their hearts. I will be their God, and they shall be my people. This verse conveniently also ties in what promises to be a big theme in Book 5 of the Stormlight Archive, that of law and justice and honor. Uniting honor? Sanderson has apparently unequivocally stated that it is possible for someone to take up Honor's shard again. Cosmologically, it is fully possible that another person could become Honor. The vessel that was holding Honor before is gone, though the Stormfather is kind of his cognitive shadow at this point, in a way. But the power, something else could be done with it, or it could remain in the state it is now. Your answer is yes, but there are some hindrances along the way. Hindrances? Like the frozen hearts of men and the stony hearts of singers? Along with the fact that Dalinar, despite being bonded to the Stormfather, is not actually Honor's vessel. Brandon has further said that something more has to happen. Repairing Honor's shard would not be within the scope of Dalinar's powers, traditionally. Sanderson, as an author and artist, is a professional liar, so even if every word he says is true,
we better keep an eye on this one. She's tricky. She's wonderful.
So it's not going to be simple for Dalinar or maybe anyone to reunite Honor. I think Dalinar is gonna need some help, especially because I think the moment for reunifying Honor will come after Dalinar is defeated in the duel, in the cognitive realm, totally dead, while being infused with void light, which will begin to also kill the Stormfather, the last vessel of Honor, bringer of light to Roshar. Light grows so distant, the storm never stops. I am broken. All around me have died. I weep for the end of all things. He has won. Oh, he has beaten us. That death rattle being from the human perspective. As for the fused perspective we get, victory! We stand atop the mount. We scatter them before us. Their homes become our dens. Their lands are now our farms, and they shall burn, as we once did, in a place that is hollow and forlorn. Thus, to save the Stormfather and what remains of Honor, the hearts of men and singers will need to be radiant. They will need to say the words that is pleasing to their God. Just as in Paradise Lost, Adam and Eve had to do to repent for their fault and somehow win back redemption. Thus they, in lowest plight, repentant stood, praying, for from the mercy seat above, prevenient grace descending had removed the stony from their hearts, and made new flesh, regenerate, grow instead, that sighs now breathed, unutterable, which the spirit of prayer inspired, and winged for heaven with speedier flight than the loudest oratory.
I do believe in fairies! I do believe in fairies. I do believe in fairies.
A dramatic sequence of radiance swearing new ideals, bringing light into the darkness would be wonderful and keeping with the ongoing themes of the Stormlight Archive, especially if some of those scenes are the listeners riding to save the day on the backs of chasm fiends. But while all this is happening, Dalinar by nature would have to be one.
Is dead.
and 2 being actively infused with Odium's investiture. Some people argue that this is where Dalinar would unite the 2 shards and become the Shard of War, as after all, isn't that what we spent all of those chapters with Navani on in Rhythm of War? I can't disprove that theory, but I feel like it's been more deeply foreshadowed that it is up to Kaladin to pick up the fallen title, the tower, the crown, and the spear. After all, the Stormfather calls him the son of Tanavast because he reminds the Stormfather of Tanavast in temperament. As we learned in Rhythm of War, one need not be highly invested to attract a shard of Adonalsium. One only need the right intent, the right temperament. Now, some of you may say that that's as likely as Moash getting a redemption arc. And I agree. Funny thing is that I think Brandon Sanderson has said as much in Oathbringer. I just need to be who I was, Moash said. That makes about as much sense as the Storm and Stormfather playing the flute, boy. But you wouldn't be the first to go off to those plains and not come back all right. No, you wouldn't. That's the Stormfather storming own truth, that storming is. It's amazing what you can catch on the rereads when you don't skip the Moash chapters like I normally do. But we now know that Kaladin has been reunited with Hoid's flute at the end of Rhythm of War, and that Hoid is determined to teach Kaladin to play it. Thus, I can almost imagine Kaladin reviving Honor by playing Honor's pure tone on his flute, a tone that humans can't normally hear. Kaladin may play this note as the Stormfather dies in the cognitive realm, along with light and hope, it would seem, ushering in the Night of Sorrows. Which actually is a rather hopeful twist on this rather ominous and unfulfilled death rattle. He watches the Black Piper in the night. He holds us in his palm, playing a tune that no man can hear.
He lives in you. He lives in me.
So that's my take on Will Dalinar unify Honor. It's complicated and still changing, so let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. Thanks for watching. Bye!